day, 7 days a week.
Are the interests of others and not the people. With this virus that has spread, might have proved what I just said wrong, that no one seems to care about, and how it has been haunting our country and globe for years. Human trafficking, or sex trafficking. We have speculations, we have theories and parallels between cases. An effect of missing people. Our society has a big infatuation with people's cases who have disappeared. Societal problem with killer boyfriends and even girls, and it's even being shown to us on our favorite platforms. A stalker male who obsesses and kills if necessary. Is You the show that you should be watching? But what does it tell us about ourselves? What does it also teach and show the people who are with that borderline? Where people literally get trafficked on their own will and get knocked out in a van and who change their minds and go back where they play their deadly, sick, childish games for money. For very rich, elite people to enjoy. What are we supposed to do? Stop watching? Stop giving views? Or find these people for not on their families but for themselves?
My name is Louis Lopez. I'm from New Jersey and I attend the University of Central Florida in Orlando. Computer science is not only building computers, it's knowing how to use platforms.
A church where something clicked to me. How can I spread the gospel? In this world right now, what we should be doing is helping others. It is fun making YouTube videos and content where people like you and your friends going out and having fun and doing challenges, and it's fun to take part in. Is murder and what happens to missing people? It's showing us what people are looking for. And what's the biggest problem? That it's not only on our country, but the world. That is why me and the Goon Squad are going to try to solve the most famous missing person case in Orlando that has haunted this city for over 15 years.
15 years now since Jennifer Kesse disappeared in Orlando without a trace. Not a trace.
Me and my friends are going to take it into our hands after what would be almost 16 years. Now, the police have botched this case from the very beginning, but the time and time they have wasted was the time and time the suspect could have just gone away.
Here's that metro station. Right here. And he walked along this fence line. Walked along it and disappeared. She went missing right here, Mosaic at Millennia.
I guess it's understood now
Today
why I made such a weird shift in my channel's content. So I'm spreading light on a missing persons case. But out of all the missing persons cases, why Jennifer Kesse?
Today's case is going to be the disappearance of Brian Schaefer, and I apologize.
The answer is simple. Name a case in mystery as captivating as Jennifer's. Her case is something you see on fictional mystery shows, like Law & Order. And like it or not, you're going to keep coming into my videos to continue watching one episode after the next, because it's that intriguing. What I'm creating here is something special. I'm going to try to make Jennifer as popular as they come. I'm taking advantage of the captivation and intrigue of this case to make her a symbol of others, people who have vanished, and why we should never give up in finding them. And Jennifer, the most safest person, ever contributes to the fact that it can happen to anybody. We are going to do everything possible to bring Jennifer home, dead or alive. Justice itself. For not only Mr. and Mrs. Kesse, but for the individual Jennifer herself. And in turn, so we could do this with all missing persons cases. While getting every single fact down regarding the case and learning about Jennifer and her life story, I could not find anything that was not a hidden parallel to me. The fact that she was from New Jersey, I loved that little fact. And researched in depth, and the fact that she came from a loving family, and that she went to UCF. Nothing but drawn closer to how I felt the Kesse family was family friends of mine.
This was one of the cases that really stuck to me because I was from New Jersey. I moved to Florida when I was 7 years old. Although I moved back, I attended the University of Central Florida. A lot of it really stuck to me in this case, and that is why I'm glad that I'm able to investigate this case along with my friends. I know you only see me right now, but I'm just glad that I can definitely get involved in it, spread light on it.
Enough about me. It's time to get into Jennifer's story, but not the story of her going missing just yet, because that is where she had gotten her fame, because of someone else's wicked deed, a notoriety completely unwanted or even asked for. So who is this person among people? It's good to go into Jennifer's life. Now I want Jennifer's story told correctly, and that is why my message to the Kesse family is to correct me if something is wrong or misinformed, and in future videos, I'll correct it myself. This was straight off of deep research and time, because we hear she went missing, but never about Jennifer herself as the individual. The only way to do this, I had time to go back home to Jersey for break. And it started right where my roots were. Jennifer Joyce Kesse was born on Wednesday, May 20th, 1981, at the Jersey Shore Medical Center at Neptune, New Jersey. The first child of Drew and Joyce Kesse. Drew was 23. After being married for 2 years, Drew and Joyce Kesse were natives of New Jersey.
Always get married young, have the kids young. We just wanted to be those young parents with young kids.
Home to Barnegat Township, New Jersey. Just a year before Jennifer was born in 1980, the Kesses, Drew and Joyce, were held up at gunpoint in their own home. This would completely shift how they would raise their children.
My wife and myself, we were held up at gunpoint before we had children, and that was a harrowing experience. And ever since our children became the age to start to understand, we taught them safety. We taught them everything that we knew about safety.
Now their first child, from the second she was born, has become their absolute dream.
She could talk in sentences at a year.
This twinkle in their eye of Jen never changed, till this day. In 1984, at 3, Jen became an older sister to a baby brother, Logan Drew Kesse. The parents had given Jen and Logan their first name as their middle name, Joyce after her mother, and for Logan, Drew for his father. And from this point on, they were inseparable. In this same year, still at the same age of 3, we started to see Jennifer's clumsy side. As she was running around as any young child does, she tripped and hit her nose on the coffee table. Her nose started to bleed and her parents frantically took her to the emergency room. X-rays didn't show or anything showing she had broke her nose. But from this incident, it is believed that it left a unique ridge in Jennifer's nose. Jennifer had grew into this vibrancy and a welcoming personality that she would take as she got older.
How much fun it was watching her grow physically and watching her personality grow. Captivating. She was captivating with the long blonde hair. She never wanted her hair cut, so she wound up with hair down past her waist. She was my very own doll.
First of all, I wish everyone could have a daughter like Jennifer. Just incredibly caring, smart. She was just incredible to be around.
She was just a perfect little girl, Mrs. Kesse stated, and loved to dress up a lot.
A superstar in school.
Now, Jennifer was a fantastic student, even in the beginning, and she was said to have great markings. The Kesse family loved swimming and lived right near the beach and was there all the time in the Barnegat Bay area, Long Beach Island LBI, and Surf City in the southern central Jersey. The Kesse family moved to Florida, Tampa, Florida, in the Odessa area.
In 1988, New Jersey native Drew Kesse, his wife Joyce, and their 2 children, Jennifer and Logan, moved south to the Sunshine State. Their new home? Florida's beautiful Gulf Coast.
Now Jennifer, as a Florida girl, is here. She continues her life as a bright, loving child continues. She's extremely well liked by everyone, students, the teachers. She got along well in school, never got in trouble, just a good kid. And you also started to see her curious sides of things.
Jennifer had a thirst for learning.
She always read growing up, always wanted to know more about just everything around her.
Just extremely, extremely inquisitive. Always was. Always was.
She was always willing to learn something new and constantly asking questions.
Her laughter, it's her wit.
Right when she moved to Florida, Jennifer gained a best friend that will be near her side from 2nd grade to the last. Lauren Dolangen, who is now Lauren McCarthy. They were like sisters and completely inseparable.
I would say Jen's closest friends were definitely Lauren.
We connected with each other in second grade, and it was just instant best friendship. It was like having a second sister.
My name is Lauren Dollahan, if you haven't noticed my voice while I was taping. Hello, I'm Jennifer Kesse, and I am one of the runners of the party.
Jennifer Kesse had a contagious spirit.
And I have been asked... Thank you. Bye.
We were just inseparable. I was always at her house, always with her family.
The Kesse family didn't hesitate to go back and visit Jersey in the Jersey Shore every summer or break.
I'm holding snow arm, Lauren. They're my best friends. See?
Just a typical American family. Jen's father, Drew, worked at sales, and her mother, Joyce, is a registered nurse who coordinated homes for cancer patients.
I was lucky enough to work out of the home my whole life in sales. I was able to get them off to school. So get them up, get them out. I love that personally. I absolutely love that. And I got to see them grow. I got to see them come home and what let's do the homework and this and that and everything else. But Jennifer was just an open young lady. No matter what, she just wanted to talk and she wanted to share what was going on in her life. It was natural within the family, to be quite honest. We just sat and we talked. I mean, this is what we thought family life is, honestly.
In 1994, when Jennifer was 13 years old, she was outside doing gymnastics in the backyard when she came in and told Joyce that her elbow was hurting, and they went to ice it. But when she was still in pain after a few days, the Kesses took their daughter to the emergency room, only to discover that Jennifer had shattered her elbow and needed surgery. Once the surgeons put 3 pins in her arm, her body actually rejected them, and she was forced to wear a cast until it healed.
On vacations together, if my family went on vacation, she came with us, and if she went on vacation, we went with her. So it was like having a second home.
And then Jennifer began babysitting. This is where her love for children had begun.
Her and her good friend Lauren, very free-spirited, and they would walk around our neighborhood pulling a wagon, and they made up index cards, Mother's Helper for hire. I mean, they started doing that at 11 and 12 years old. She loved children. She absolutely loved children. She started babysitting at a really young age and became, as I said, a mother's helper, and then wound up babysitting for a child with special needs who had a feeding tube and a seizure disorder. And as a 12 and 13-year-old on through high school, she would babysit for this boy.
She had a very nurturing way.
Oh, very, very nurturing.
He just grew into that role of always intelligent, always learning, always reading.
Jennifer walks into a room and you notice her because of her huge smile and just the way she carried herself.
She was a very, very strong woman. She didn't really have any enemies. She's an awesome person.
In 1995, Jennifer began high school and attended Vivian Gaither High School in Tampa, Florida, which is now known as Gaither High School, home of the Cowboys, which also notably a high school of famous actor Channing Tatum. And yes, they attended school with each other. Jen's freshman year and Tatum's sophomore year. Whether they knew or know of each other or not at all, we don't know. We have watched to see Jennifer be really close with her father, a daddy's girl.
The father-daughter bond that Jennifer and I share, we were able to talk on so many different levels. She had answers. She had theories of what is right, what is wrong.
She's daddy's little girl. And then, whenever she wanted anything, the tone of the voice is just, Daddy. I'm like, what do you need, Jen? No matter what. As soon as you heard that, it was, what do you need? But we were very close. She's daddy's little girl. Always has been. Always will be.
God loved Jennifer, but she's a little bit of a bathroom pig in the morning. Jen, the ultimate bathroom pig. The ultimate bathroom pig. I mean, she would leave her sleepwear on the floor, makeup all over the counter. Just car pig. I mean, a car pig like you have no idea. She'd have as neat as a pin as her home was. Her car was the complete opposite. She would have, I don't know, how many junk mail things in the back of her seat, in the front of the seat. She just always had stuff, shoes, pocketbooks. Oh, you know, you leave the house with this pocketbook. Oh, the other pocketbook's in the car. Let me quick switch. Quick switch.
A close-knit family like always, bestest of friends. Jennifer was the loudest supporter at Logan's soccer games, and she was very protective of him.
The two siblings have always had a strong bond.
Logan and Jennifer, fiercely protective of one another.
Absolutely best friends. They were just like, okay, it's you and me against mom and dad.
Jen and I were extremely close. We're 3 years apart, brother, sister. She supported me in all my soccer, always there to watch all my sports, all my games. I was there for her.
We were close and we cared about each other.
Was she very protective over you as her little brother?
Very protective, but not in a crazy way, but definitely. I mean, like, it's just for sure. She always, for sure.
So if anyone bothered you, she was not going to stand still and let it happen.
That's the funny thing. All her friends will tell you too, she was protective of me, but I didn't know it like that, and vice versa, though. Honestly.
The Kesse family was also very strict, with constant safety talks and watching crime shows, always telling their kids to pick up their phones no matter what.
We gave her a cell phone when she was 16 years old, probably 15 and a half when she first started to drive. And the law with both my children were, if your mother or your father calls you on this cell phone, we don't care what you're doing, where you are, you answer the phone. Otherwise, there's going to be hell to pay, period. There's an unwritten rule that if your mother or your father called, no matter if you're 16 or 24, you pick that phone up.
The rule was, when both kids got their car and their first phone, one rule, you answer that phone when your mother or father calls you. If you do not, the phone gets taken away, the car gets taken away, period. End of story.
We were a little strict.
Jennifer began habits of checking in with her family, and she would also make scenarios after watching Law & Order criminal shows of what she would do in them.
Her and I were big Law & Order fans, and I think that out of all of the police shows, in my opinion, I think that Law & Order is probably one of the most realistic of the police shows, in that they teach you a lot of what to avoid, how to avoid it, or what to do in certain situations.
Drew and Joyce started to have a little bit of problems with Jennifer as in his teen years in high school, as she started to question authority a lot.
We fought like cats and dogs, I may say, in high school. Those were our tough years.
Tough teenager or good teenager?
Oh no, very good teenager. Jen and I in high school, we were like oil and water because we were too much alike. And we had a great relationship. Then high school, then, you know, the little conflict of, I know more than you do, Mom. No, you don't. No, you don't.
Jennifer knew what she wanted to do, and as she had friends and guys she liked, she knew what she wanted and worked.
Miss Independent, right there. I think she's so strong and, you know, by herself. I don't think that she was ever a needy type person. She never needed companionship. Sure, it was nice. And yes, she had boyfriends or people that she was interested in, but it was never something that she needed. And she didn't have that many, now that I think about it. She dated somebody in high school.
I think it was around junior year in high school. We might have had a class together, and there was another friend, Joy. So it was me, Jen, and Joy, and we just kind of hit it off. They were already friends before I joined their little group, but that's when we started first hanging out. Yes, she's just the type of friend that always puts her friends first, which, you know, is hard to find in people. She was never selfish. You know, she'd be the one to take the last piece of cake or the smallest piece, you know, and out of all my friends, I don't ever recall ever getting in any type of, like, argument with her. Like, she was just so easygoing and always listened to everybody's side of the story, just a great person. definitely a safety-focused type person, you know? Like, I went on a trip once before cell phones, and she had a cell phone. She's like, take my phone, you know, just in case something goes wrong. I want you to have it so you're safe, or I'll worry about you. So, you know, she was just a great person, great friend, definitely missed, and she always was up for any trip we were going to go on. I went on my senior class trip with her to Cancun, just hung out with her the whole time. She loved, I don't know, we went also to Las Vegas. I'm sure there was tons of other trips, so she was always down for anything fun, just easygoing. Everybody wanted to be around her. In high school, we would always go to her house. Her parents were younger, just so fun and open, and you can talk to anything with them about. And every year, her parents would have a big Christmas party, and we were both from...
Jennifer graduated from Vivian Gaither High School with honors in 1999. Jennifer was accepted and decided to go to the University of Central Florida, UCF in Orlando. This is where Jennifer was at a great point in her life, and well known, probably one of the greatest times in her life. And if she even had more time, she probably would still say so. When people think of Jennifer Kesse, they think the girl that went to UCF, the student, the graduate, the alumni, finance major, just thrived.
Jen ended up going to UCF.
Jennifer's major was pre-med. In August of 1999, Jennifer had took off to Orlando. She had just received her random roommate assignments for UCF dorming right before the semester in freshman year had begun. Her roommate's name was Carrie. As she was interviewed on the Unconcluded podcast by Scott Jerd and his co-host Sean Jameson, it wasn't recorded on the Sidebar episode 15 of season 1. Jennifer and her dorm had promptly called Carrie to introduce herself and to inform her that she had already purchased bedding and that she was concerned about the apartment lack of closet space. Jennifer would be moving in a day early, and coincidentally, Carrie would be moving in a day early as well. Even though it was a random assignment and really early, Carrie's mom decided that she liked Jennifer because Jen had cried when her parents left. Now, Jen and Carrie that night would stay up crying, talking about dreams, plans, and their fears for being on their own for the first time. Now, Jennifer and Carrie were both rushing a sorority, and after their first week living with each other on their own, Jennifer and Carrie had already decided there was no way Jen and her were going to join different sororities. Now, they both, as long as her friends from high school, joined the Alpha Delta Phi, 80 Pi sorority at UCF.
Did a sorority life there.
A bunch of awesome girls from 80 Pi.
She just lit up a room when she walked in. The smile would come on, and she always had a smile.
It isn't until Jennifer left and then returned from college that first semester where Joyce and Jennifer and her father had a new dynamic. No longer the rebellious teen, but an instant adult relationship.
It wasn't until Jennifer went to college, and that first weekend that she came home, our relationship shifted from her being an 18-year-old child who left to go to college to her and I having that adult relationship. Very special. Jen went away to college and came home that first weekend, but our relationship did the big changeover, and it became mother-daughter as adults and having almost a girlfriend type of relationship.
Every year, her parents would have a big Christmas party, and we were both from Tampa, so we would, we both went to UCF as well, and we're in the same sorority, so we would always come home for the same break.
Freshman year of college, her and her new friend Carrie decided after their freshman year, which is usually done, they moved off campus with each other and a few of her friends to the Gatherings apartments just west down the road on University Boulevard, west of UCF.
It's now called the Quad at UCF, but back in the day it was called the Gatherings. It is the Gatherings Drive.
They ended up staying there for years on end. During these years in college, Jennifer decided she was going to change her major to finance. Carrie described it as being such a big deal for her. With the great Jen, she had cut out a clear vision on where she was going with it and how she was going to get it done. Carrie described Jennifer as being absolutely terrified of bugs and was obsessed with the New York Giants, and that she had a wicked sense of humor. She also described how her and Jennifer used to go on frequent shopping trips. She also said that Jen was a huge Dave Matthews Band fan and can rap an entire song only after hearing it a few times. She shared Jennifer loved to snack but wasn't big on sweets and wasn't big on trying new things to eat. It was almost easily grossed out. She described him watching a lot of Law & Order and crime and how they were both sucked into the reality TV boom. She was known to just be a young woman trying to find herself. She'd known Jennifer for so long, they lived together for all those years and were so close, they knew everything. The good, the bad, the ugly, even the things that weren't becoming. There was no judgment. Carrie was quick to point out Jennifer's edge. She didn't take shit from anyone. She had that Jersey edge. Jennifer was someone not afraid to speak her mind and stand up for herself. But behind that was a kind heart, a kind of person to cry and then get mad at herself for doing so. Carrie was clear she'd share everything and there was no secrets. Jennifer is not just book smart, but with the extreme awareness and common sense beyond that of many. She also declared how hard it was to grasp just how safety cautious Jennifer was. All Jennifer's sorority sisters referred to her as Mother Hen, because she was the one at any party or club to make sure her friends were drinking water and make sure they got home.
Jen is just that kind of person that you want to be around. She makes you feel good. I'm going to tell you, if she didn't like you, she didn't care for you, she wouldn't give you the time of day. She would not.
She was sincere. She was genuine and a straight shooter. Real.
Yeah, a straight shooter is right.
And she is from New Jersey, born and raised. So she was stubborn. She stood by what she believed in life. Had an incredible amount of friends. And I've said it year after year. I honestly and truly mean it when I say that I wish everyone could have a daughter like Jennifer. Yes, you have your ups and downs and all that with any kid, any child that you have, but she was a dream as far as kids go, and just an incredible young adult. She lit up a room. Wherever she went in, she was always smiling, and she just cared. It was just within Jennifer to care. It was phenomenal to see her grow, and I think she made Joyce and I and Logan grow just as much all along the way. But she was just a dream to have as a child. We do Jersey.
She wasn't living a risky lifestyle. She was the safest, smartest person amongst her friends that they referred to her as Mother Hen.
I could honestly say to this day, Jennifer is probably the safest person I know in the world.
She was the safest of her sorority sisters, known as Mother Hen, and made sure people, had their seatbelts on, the doors were locked.
I had tried getting in contact with Jennifer's friends for my series, but I couldn't reach them. Be free to know that we would be learning so much new about Jennifer after we put together all the facts from different specials on Jennifer. Jennifer carried mace pepper spray, always checked in with her family, and was always on the phone with her father, mother, friends while walking alone.
We were held up at gunpoint in our home before we had children. So as soon as they were old enough to start understanding safety, we started teaching safety to them. So they were used to it. I mean, it was part of our lives, just be about being aware of what's around you. One of Jen's main things was a safety call, a safe call. It wouldn't matter if she was in the Target parking lot walking into the store. She'd have someone on the phone from her car in. And it used to be funny because if we got a call, it was like, no, the friends around? Yeah, no, just hanging with me here, and she'd walk in talking to you. And then, okay, good. Okay, I might call you back in about 10 minutes. Okay, whatever. It almost was total habit.
So Jen and I met freshman year during sorority rush. This would have been August 1999. And we ended up joining the same sorority. We were 80 Pies at UCF. And that kind of started an inseparable bond. And that's how I also met Carrie. The two of them, they lived together, and they were randomly paired freshman year, and I basically also lived in their dorm with them. Mm-hmm. She literally is the friend that will drop anything for you. She once drove an hour to me because I was having a meltdown over a breakup. And looking back on it, it was really the stupidest thing. But she dropped everything to eat ice cream and sit there with me and watch TV until the wee hours of the morning. And this was at a time we didn't live together. And she ended up staying the night at my house because I needed consoling. I mean, she had other things to do, but she literally just packed a bag, brought ice cream, and came over. Drove an hour. I feel like this is going to sound so cliche, but Jen is the person who lights up a room. Her laugh is infectious. She's the life of the party, the friend that you want to have. She'll take your secrets to the grave. She'll defend you no matter what. She's got this no bullshit attitude about her, which I think she gets partly from growing up in Jersey and partly from her parents, who taught her well. But she's got a softer side too, and it's one that I think only a small handful of her close friends saw, and that was compassion and love and forgiveness and generosity. She dated Matthews 24/7. Very much also into music like her parents, 70s type rock. I mean, she loves, 80s and hip hop and all that kind of stuff, but, she's very much like her parents. Shopping. We like to go out to bars, go out to eat. We took some road trips together. Let's see, a few of us went to Alabama for a UCF football game. Jen and I went to Rehoboth Beach one summer for a week vacation together. We've been to New York City together. She liked to travel. She loved the beach. She basically grew up at the beach. Miss Independent, right there. I think she's so strong and, by herself. I don't think that she was ever a needy type person. She never needed companionship. Sure, it was nice. And yes, she had boyfriends or people that she was interested in, but it was never something that she needed. And she didn't have that many, now that I think about it. She dated somebody in high school, and then she liked somebody in college, but I don't think she really dated him.
It's in those years at UCF that Jennifer began dating Matthew Silva.
And then she dated that one guy before Rob. I mean, she's had very few actual boyfriends. Matt, yeah. I mean, Sundays you pretty much knew that was that there was going to be football on all day, and there was no arguing about what game you were going to watch because if the Giants were playing, Jen was watching the Giants, and that was it. And that was just what you did all day. I remember, she used to drink crap beer that because she can't afford anything else, but she made a killer mac and cheese. She would make homemade mac and cheese, and we'd all sit around the TV and watch the Giants.
One of my follow-up questions was just about whether Jen was a person who stayed up all hours of the night or got up early in the morning.
I don't really think she was either. I mean, she was responsible. On a work night, she went to bed at a normal hour, 9:30, 10 o'clock maybe. She wasn't a partier. Sure, on the weekends we would go out, and maybe during the week we went out, but towards the end of college, I remember junior, senior year especially. I mean, what was her? She had this class, Capstone, Cornerstone, one of those. I mean, she was always studying those last couple of years of college. Plus, she interned at, her senior year. Didn't she intern, or did she actually have a job? Gosh, I can't remember. It's been so long. At where she works now, or where she worked professionally. So she basically had a real job our senior year. I know that people have probably told you this, but she was smart. And she always had this keen sense of her surroundings. From the moment I met her, it wasn't anything we learned in school or learned in a sorority. She was just always really smart about who she was with, who she was associating herself with, who was behind her at the mall, who she parked next to. She was just smart never to leave any of her friends behind and never to be the one left behind. Whether we were out at a sorority event or we were out on our own or out to dinner or at the mall, it was always like going in groups. What's that term? The buddy system. She was just always smart like that. Maybe it came from her obsession with watching Law & Order SVU. I don't know. But that girl watched aside from reality TV, hours and hours of Law & Order SVU. And maybe that's what, helped shape this sense of smarts about her.
I also asked if Jennifer had ever had issues with anyone.
Oh gosh, never. And if anyone had an issue with her, I didn't know about it. I mean, she, aside from just her good friends, she pretty much kept her herself. I mean, she never was the one to start controversy or drama or get into cat fights. I mean, it just wasn't her thing. She didn't care about any of that kind of stuff. I can't think of anybody, man or woman, that had an issue with Jennifer Kesse. What I would like people to know is that that she really is a good person. Like, I know that she never would have put herself in harm's way. Never. She would never meet with somebody she didn't know. She would never go off with somebody she didn't know.
So, I started UCF I got down to the University of Central Florida, which is where I met Jennifer in the end of the summer, 1999. And that was going to be my freshman year of college right after graduation. And I rushed for sorority. Did rush week there before the week or two before school started. And happened to join Alpha Delta Phi. And Jennifer, I guess the same thing. She had just rushed and joined Alpha Delta Phi. So we were in the same pledge class together. And that's where I met her. And, we were the same age, both her first year in school. And, she had a couple friends that had come from the area of the city near Tampa where she was from. And I was from the Panhandle part of Florida, Panama City Beach, Florida. So, we met that way. We were in the same pledge class together. We went through initiation. We did all the activities together, the socials, the philanthropy activities. That typical college stuff that you all do together. I wouldn't say we were best friends or anything like that. She had a circle of girlfriends that she hung out with more so than me, but we were definitely, close because we were in the same pledge class, the same room during initiation and all that stuff. And we spent a lot of time together, especially during the freshman and sophomore year of college. Okay, I would describe Jennifer as very responsible, predictable, just a good, wholesome, all-American girl, very involved in everything, eager to do things, she's very helpful, very kind. I mean, she just really was a good, wholesome girl that, I don't know, just a sweet person. She wasn't a partier. She wasn't anything like that. She made good grades. She was the kind of, person that, just a good person, I don't really know how to explain it, but that's just how she was. She was very responsible, very, you could tell everything she did was very planned and advanced and as opposed to some college, kids that are, wild, partying, going, just by, whatever they decide to do that day. She wasn't like that. She was definitely, one of the sweeter, calmer, more, average girls. She was very self-aware and aware of her surroundings and aware of, and you got that impression just from being around her. She was just very responsible, very, always, always doing the right thing, making the right decisions. And so, yes, she was a very safe person. It wasn't like she was the type of person or type of woman that would put herself in situations where you'd be like...
I lived in the dorms my first year in Orange Hall, and I rushed before school started, sorority rush, participated in that, and became a member of Alpha Delta Phi, or 80 Pi. And Jen also rushed 80 Pi. She lived in the dorms also. And amongst the various girls living in the dorms and rushing 80 Pi, we became like a close-knit group of girlfriends. We just started hanging out first year of school, just kind of orienting our whole self with that new environment of college. We came pretty close. We have similar personalities. We're both born in May, so both Tauruses, probably the ideal person you would think of if you follow astrology. So like a bull, very stubborn, very witty, but also very loyal. She was just a very charismatic person. She loved, people, loved making friends, loved football, was not afraid to share her opinion, but just like a genuine person to be around.
What are some memories you have from those early days where you probably thought to yourself, well, this is definitely somebody that I want to be friends with and I'm going to be close friends with?
I think it's just you make a connection with a person that shares your similar ideals, and that is just an easy friendship. We didn't need to work at it. She's very honest, very caring person, and so am I, and we just clicked. I remember probably first or second year, we actually went to stay with her family, her parents, in Tampa. We went they have a festival called Gasparilla, I think. It's kind of like their Mardi Gras. And we stayed with her family and went to that event during the day. And I had never been there. I'm not from this part of the area, so it was a new experience for me. But her family was just so welcoming and fun to be around. It was a really great time. And her parents were just like her. Accepted all of these crazy college girls into their house, cooked us meals, and offered us to be there and come back at any time. So a couple of our other girlfriends had grown up with her that were in college that also rushed JD Pi. They went to middle school and high school together. So they were already very close. Even that didn't keep us from becoming close friends. We all became a close-knit group of friends. There was about 9 of us. They lived in an apartment called The Gatherings in college after that first year in a dorm, so they were called the Gatherings girls. Just a good group, close group of girlfriends in college, just kind of doing all the things that you do to experience college from outside of going, to your classes.
I never joined a sorority. My school, we just didn't have them. But from what I understand, people who are in fraternities, sororities, they become sort of these lifelong friends, like family almost.
Yeah, so for me, I went to school, I'm an engineer, electrical engineer. So that's very hard for a female. It's easier now. So I rushed as a sorority to meet friends. And luckily I did, because otherwise I would have just been going to engineering classes and be surrounded by people who sometimes don't have the same personalities you do. So my studies were quite different than my personality is.
I would guess that you are a pretty serious student if you're an electrical engineer now, and I understand Jen took her academics
she
quite
was
seriously.
In finance, and she took her academics seriously. In fact, all of our friends did. That's also probably a misconception about sororities. And in fact, at the time, Greek was the leading in academics, so it's just a way to reach out to friends. Everyone in college does things outside of their classes, whether you're in a sorority or fraternity or otherwise. And so it's just a great way to make connections with people that you otherwise might not have. And I'm grateful that we did, because even other than Jen, I made lifelong friends that I can still reach out today.
It's also cool to note that Logan started to hang out with Jen's guy friends who also played soccer. Their friend circles have merged. When she went to UCF, Logan visited just on the weekends for college parties. She was always, a big sister, and I know for a long time I was the annoying little brother, but as we got older, we grew closer just naturally. That is why it's so ridiculously difficult to deal with. Difficult then and still difficult now, he said to Dateline. She's making sure he always drank water and was doing the right thing.
We were inseparable. Our friendship never wavered. Just the greatest friend I've ever had.
Lauren McCarthy and Jennifer were best friends since childhood.
She was extremely safety conscious. She was very aware of her surroundings. She carried pepper spray with her all the time. She was always on the radar with everybody. She was the type of person who would call her mom or her dad or me when she was simply walking from Target in the parking lot and it was dark out. Jennifer is a super funny, super witty person, very strong-willed and very assured of herself. She knew what track she was going to take and she knew how to get there. Jennifer is definitely the most loyal person I've ever been friends with or probably ever known.
Jennifer was very habitual and didn't do things out of the ordinary.
Jennifer graduated from the University of Central Florida in 2003 with a bachelor's degree in finance.
Jennifer Joyce Kesse.
How many young women get offered 3 jobs?
After graduation, what did you do? Where did you go? And what were her plans?
We actually both stayed here. From college, we moved in different.
Jennifer still lived with her friends and sorority sisters at the gatherings, and still goes out and hangs and has a good time with her friends. It's also great to note that once after Jennifer had graduated from college, she got offered 3 different positions from Central Florida Investments Incorporation's venture Westgate Resorts. Jennifer was living life.
Women get offered 3 jobs for the same company, 3 different positions. So that tells you a lot about Jennifer.
And then she got hired on with Central Florida Investments.
CFI Westgate Resorts was founded by the well-known real estate mogul David Siegel, whose extravagant life was documented in the movie The Queen of Versailles.
What she did was she streamlined backroom operations, specifically within the mortgage division.
She was dedicated to her job. She was smart. She had a great personality. Everybody liked her.
Still with CFI Westgate today, in 2006, John Willman was Jennifer's boss.
Within a year, we promoted her to a project manager.
The 24-year-old was loving life in Orlando.
We talked every day. Jen and I driving home from work. I'd call her and we would just kind of, talk about the work day, talk about people, what you normally do. Just, what are you doing this weekend? What's going on in your life?
We used to say, reach for the stars, you just might get one. I mean, it's just the old cliche of saying it, but Jennifer took it to heart.
That's when she accepted her position as an analyst for Westgate Resorts.
She could just see everything and take everything in, where someone like myself, I can see most of the picture, but she saw the whole thing. What she did was she streamlined the operations of the largest timeshare resort in the world. All of their financials, everything, anyone who went to their resorts, what they spent, what they paid, all the good stuff. And it turns out that she was very good at that. And after she did her first department, which was the mortgage department, she saved the company an incredible amount of money. And the company then decided that it was a good opportunity for Jennifer to go through every single department in the company to streamline.
After being promoted 3 times, during this year, her and Matthew Sylvan had broken up. Do not know what for, but he was devastated and wanted her back. The co-workers liked Jen at work, and she threw them off as well. In 2005, Jennifer's long friend at the gatherings, Carrie, was getting married, and it was time for Jennifer and her friends to move on. In January of 2005, Jennifer and her friends and sorority sisters went to the Aku Aku Tiki Bar in downtown Orlando, and they ran into a few guys, one being Robert Allen, a British soccer player guy.
When I noticed Jennifer in the bar that we were at, obviously she was a striking young lady. Found her very beautiful.
I remember Jennifer giving me a phone number. She's like, I don't ever do this.
We had a lot in common, that we were attracted to each other.
When Jen and I were dating, we had loved each other, carefree relationship. You're forming something, and it was great. I mean, I didn't have a care in the world at the time. I mean, I always tell people when they ask me about it, take out the physical beauty. She's captivating. I mean, she'd walk into the room, smart, fun, energetic. Just great to be around. I used to look forward to see each other virtually every weekend. I know most people always would say I was cliche, but I really did look forward to the weekend because it was an opportunity to spend time with someone, even just watching a ball game or doing something mundane. It was just fun.
How did you two meet?
Jen obviously lived in Orlando and I lived down in, at the time, Fort Lauderdale. And my roommate I was living with had a convention or a trade show up in Orlando. And we were both single at the time, and he was just like, hey, look, do you want to go up to Orlando? I've got a hotel room. We can go up there, have the trade shows during the day, and then we'll go out at night. And I was like, yeah, sure, sounds like fun. Don't really go up to Orlando very often. I always kind of equate it to Disney and kind of pat that. I'm not that young. But I went up there with Rich, and the last evening we were there, he happened to start talking to this girl, and then she had a bunch of friends there. And then I got talking to this one girl, which ended up being Jennifer, and just kind of hit it off right there and then. Exchanged phone numbers, which I know is something that she would never do. And I was a bit skeptical at first, but then we ended up communicating via phone calls for the next few weeks, and then decided after that, then I'd go up there and we'd go out on a date.
What was your first date like?
I gotta be honest, like just driving up from the 2.5 hour drive, I'm kind of like, oh, this is a long way to drive, for a date. But I guess testament to her that I was, I had butterflies, which I always think is a good sign. We hit it off so quickly. We were very, very happy. Although 12 months doesn't seem a long time, we filled an awful lot in 12 months and talked hours and hours on end. She understood me, and I would like to think that I understood her as well.
I lived in, Fort Lauderdale as such, and she lived in Orlando.
Obviously, distance is hard, so that was difficult for her, but she was happy in her relationship.
Rob was an awesome guy. Super nice, give you the shirt off his back. One thing was he was a little bit older at first, so I kind of gave her a little bit of crap for that.
He just saw me as, this is a guy Jen started dating that I don't really know much about. It's a foreign guy.
Did you think that he was the one for her at the time?
Yes, and so did she.
Robert and Jen's relationship started to get serious, but it was frustrating because both weren't willing to move because of their jobs. They cherished every second they had with each other.
Asked us to please help her find a condo.
Jennifer was in search for a condo, and after deciding between two, Drew Kesse said this is where he wanted his daughter. A brand new condominium complex in the Millennia area off Conroy Road. It was still under construction as there were once an apartment complex called Traditions Apartments. Not even halfway done, Jennifer jumped on it and bought it for $200,000. She was one of the first people living there. On Thursday, November 24th, this condominium was right near the brand new 3-4-year-old mall at Millennia, the biggest mall in Florida. Now, Jennifer loved it. The construction workers creeped her out a little bit, and on Christmas Eve 2005, Jennifer and Joyce had a mother-daughter day, and on New Year's Day, she spent it with Kristen Ender at the Mosaic at her condo, and then went on a vacation with Rob to St. Croix. It's time now to go into what happened to Jennifer Joyce Kesse. Here I will display two timelines to give you an investigative feel of what it was like to be in the shoes of those who had seen Jennifer vanish. Central Florida Investments' Westgate Resorts venture in Ocoee contacted Jennifer's emergency contacts, first listed her mother, Joyce Kesse. The person who contacted her was friends of the Kesses, Chief Financial Officer, CFO, Thomas Dugan. Joyce steps outside from when she was doing a presentation in a room from work and takes a call. Working from home, when he received a call from the Chief Financial Officer, CFO, Thomas Dugan at Westgate. He calls Drew and asks if Jennifer was okay.
Asked, hey, is Jennifer okay? She's sick? She didn't make it into work today.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, I'm like, hold on, let me call her. She'll answer my phone. So I said, hold on, I'll call you right back. Hung up, called Jennifer's phone.
It's the first time that it went directly to her voicemail. Didn't ring 4 times, went directly to her voicemail. And I called back my friend and said, well, I can't reach her. And that second, I knew something was wrong.
Now, the reason Westgate Resorts called, because at 11 a.m., Jennifer was expected at a morning meeting. Jennifer's shift began at 8 a.m., and if she was 5 minutes late, she would call. And this was completely out of character for her. Grade A employee, and was almost always on time.
We had started the workday, but after about a half an hour and then an hour, we started wondering, where's Jennifer?
The CFO, Thomas Dugan, was the one who noticed this and made it aware to Jennifer's boss at the time, John Willman. The workplace was calling her cell phone and condo landline, while Tom called the emergency contacts, her parents.
We waited another half hour or so and placed a phone call to Jennifer's dad.
Now back to the parents. Joyce tries to contact Jennifer's condo landline and her cell phone through her computer, but she can't reach her either. Joyce calls Robert Allen and asks him if he had heard from Jennifer, in which he had responded, no.
Bill takes the call. He tells them he hasn't heard from Jennifer either.
Rob said, wait, I've already called her home. Her cell phone went right to voicemail. At that moment, I felt as if someone put a knife in my heart.
Jen would always call me or text me on her way to work. On that morning, I never got the text message or I never received a phone call. I called her and texted her on my way to work because I hadn't heard from her, which I thought was kind of strange. But then I know both of us had just got back from vacation, so I just assumed that she had a busy schedule like I did.
And then I texted her, and then I drove into work, and on every Tuesday at my old job, I used to have a staff meeting, and I just texted her again before I went into the staff meeting. I was like, hey, look, have a great day. Hope you're doing, call me when you get a chance or text me when you get this. I remember in the staff meeting that my boss at the time, myself and him, we had kind of a acrimonious relationship. And I remember going to the staff meeting afterwards and being like, I got to ask Jen's opinion. I just want to vent about something he'd said or something that he'd asked me to do. And I called her again or texted her before I went to lunch, and I still hadn't heard from her. And, I wanted to blow some steam and say, hey, look, what do you think about this? She was aware of my work situation. And I didn't hear from her. And then I went to lunch, and that's when Joyce had contacted me.
Back to the parents. Drew and Joyce contacted each other knowing something was completely wrong.
It never even crossed my mind that she was in a car accident. It was, oh my God, we have to find her. And it was like such an overwhelming, like, oh my God, we've got to find her. Like, what? Oh my God. And right away, we suspected the workers because of what she had been sharing with us.
They then try to contact Logan, who's at the gym, and who is not also picking up the phone.
I was in the gym. I come back out to the car, a bunch of missed calls from my folks. Call my dad. He was at the house, and he just said basically something's going on with Jen, or Jen's not answering, or something along those lines. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? Like, nobody can get a hold of Jen. She didn't work. Tom called me, who was one of my parents' really good friends, and he was the CFO of her company. So it's unlike her, this and that, nobody can get a hold of her. And obviously to me, that immediately, like right now I have goosebumps, because that's not like her, obviously, at all. And I had a feeling initially, so I ran home, my dad's like, come home.
And said, hey, nobody can find your sister. We got to get to Orlando.
She was crying, she was extremely emotional, hey, Jen's not answering. She gave me the whole rundown. She didn't show up to work. She's not answering her phone.
Got home,
He was drunk across the street. This cat called. How did you feel?
I don't know, I just felt like fucking weird. I just feel like I'm driving there.
Somebody just literally, while the window was on, someone just went hello there. Somebody knows something in that area, right? And they're just not. We were driving past the Huntington on the green, and I took down the window just so I could get a better view of me passing it by, get some footage that night just so I can put it in the video. And as I'm driving by and I'm putting up the window, someone goes hello. They were probably talking to Angel, but it spooked the shit out of me. I'm telling you, somebody knows something. At 10 o'clock at night, the police just literally duped the whole other way. And right up there. And there's also a man